me start with some short introduction about myself. So my name is Anatoli Sanko. I'm originally from Belarus, but about a year live in Turkey. So in Balıkesir region, so it's like not very known region in Turkey, but yeah. And regarding my experience, so I started as developer, support engineer. After that, switched to project management roles, but about last 15 years, so I try to work with different lean, agile, Kanban methods, practices, and now I am focusing more on agile coaching and consultancy, also connected to agile. And you can see some certificates that I have currently, but maybe better to talk more about my focus. So I am usually focused on program portfolio level. So, but it's clear that in some cases you have to dig deeper into teams. It's also the reason to look on team level, and I am safe, how it's called currently, practice consultant, and delivered more than 60 different safe training for version 4, 5, 6, not yet, but hope to do it. Also, I am Kanban coach and Kanban consultant by Kanban University. And so just because of my approach to work, so I don't like to implement something from the book. So it's definitely clear that it's good to see some guidelines, something that will help you to understand how to organize your work. But definitely the best is to focus on problems or challenges that your teams or your clients have. And for me, it's definitely a trigger to review approaches, frameworks, methods, methodologies that in some cases use absolutely the same term. And today we'll focus more on Scrum, and Scrum is well known on the world, but also I try to find some topics that will unite different approaches or will differ. Because, you know, when you try to apply a framework, you'll definitely get framework. But it doesn't mean, fortunately or unfortunately, that problems or challenges that your clients, your customers, your teams have will be solved. And today we'll talk about Scrum, and we'll talk about scaling Scrum. So, and I will try to focus on some specific areas that are common and different. And what I would like to start with, so I would like to talk about why, first of all, Scrum. And I will share some information that is free on the market. So it means that you can find this information by yourself. So it's not hidden, and everything that I will share can be found without any problem. And here you can see two comparison slides. One is from State of Agile previous one version, so it's version 15, and second one is from the latest one that was released just several months ago, and it's State of Agile 16 version. And so you can see here, Scrum is the top on the market, and about 87, so close to 90% of teams practice Scrum. But you can see also some approach that people not call a Scrum, but call it iterative with some additional Kanban practices, Scrumban. So it's the reason to see even more than 100% of this slide. But this picture, maybe it's better presentation because you can see percentage of this pie. So like 60%, 66% use Scrum, and you can find some combinations like Scrum, XP, hybrid, Scrum, Ban. Maybe one note here. So there are a lot of organizations that use Scrum or use this term, so we can even check the first time when Scrum was used for software development, but I will be probably focusing on Scrum framework and Scrum guide. So it's a well-known artifact developed by Scrum.org organization, and it's used by many other organizations for educational purposes and other things. So I will use this Scrum guide and the latest version, 2020 version, as some kind of baseline, and try to find some like common things or different things with some other implementations of Scrum. So it was announced at the beginning that there will be discussion about scaling as well. And you can see also slides from 2015th version and the latest one version, 16th from previous year, and you can see that there are a bunch of different items on each. But what I would like to pick up from this list, and also I will try to focus on exactly these frameworks. You can see scaledagile framework. So it's like top, and you can see growth on the market. To be honest, even being a safe practice consultant, I would like to challenge these values, because what I noticed that previous version, this one, was not sponsored by a scaledagile organization, but current one is sponsored. So I don't like to say that it's not true, but still it's some kind of question for me, because I see too dramatic growth, and I would like to understand, like by myself personally, what is the reason for it. What I would like to present here as next topic that we'll talk about, you can see Scrum at scale and Scrum of Scrums. Interesting thing here. So Scrum at scale as framework was introduced a bunch of years ago, but 2015 State of Agile report was first time when such combination was present. Like not only Scrum of Scrum, but also Scrum at scale, because all other previous versions didn't have any reference to Scrum at scale framework. So probably it will be also the reason touch it a bit, but not a lot. And so there are other frameworks, but what I would like to pick up here, it's large scale Scrum and Nexus. So from one point, talking about these four, let's say, scaling frameworks, it's something that I see in high demand from my clients. And to be honest, it's also a bit related to my knowledge, because usually, you know, so when there is no request for some specific topic, like no reason to dig deeper into it, and I try to educate myself in safe for Scrum at scale, less, and Nexus. Okay. So, as I mentioned, yeah, so I would like to focus on these frameworks, and what is the reason to keep here these three organizations. And you can see Scrum.org, Scrum Alliance, and Scrum Inc. So it's well known that Scrum Guide is signed by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland. Ken Schwaber was person who created these two organizations. So he participated in creation of Scrum Alliance, but later he led to create Scrum.org. And this Scrum guide is published by Scrum.org organization, and it was supported or used for any educational purposes by Scrum.org and Scrum Alliance. What about Scrum.inc? So as I mentioned, two names, Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland. So Scrum Inc. Is organization where Jeff Sutherland contributes a lot, like methodologist and others. So, and this organization is also providing bunch of trainings based on Scrum guide. And Scrum at Scale is framework that is created by this organization. Talking about Scrum.org, so one thing that I mentioned on this slide, this Nexus framework, it's developed by Scrum.org. So you can see that there are a lot of connections between these three organizations and this initial artifact Scrum guide. What about this SAFe? I put two versions of SAFe because SAFe 6.0 was just announced on 15th of March, and SAFe 5 will stay alive at least for a year. So it's the reason to keep both. And less. So less initially used Scrum. But there were a bunch of differences between even previous versions of Scrum and less on the understanding, but I will touch it a bit later. So it will be also part of differences that exist with understanding and different things related to Scrum. Okay, any questions? So we can proceed, and just to present some items. So it's like usual poster for Scrum, Nexus, and you can see that a lot of things are common between Scrum for one team and Nexus. So we'll touch these differences, and also less. So there are two configurations of less and less huge. Here is less presented, but I will touch less huge as well during scaling part. And also we can see some slides for SAFe 5 and SAFe 6. There is also one difference in SAFe comparing to all previous frameworks that I presented. So it's a first item. You can see that there is even different terminology. So in most of cases, Scrum team and Scrum word is used for all other, like for Scrum, by Scrum Inc., Scrum Alliance, Scrum.org, by LS and Scrum at Scale. But Agile teams are used in SAFe for a long time, and we'll also touch why they use different wording. And here you can see some approach that is used by Scrum at Scale for their scaling. Okay. So I would like to start with some basic elements that we have in Scrum, and in many cases you can find like 11 elements of Scrum, or so like 3 plus 3 plus 5. But what we talk about? So we talk about roles or accountabilities, and I put two elements here by reason, because different wording is used now, and also events and artifacts. And yeah, talking about roles, events, and artifacts, I would like to start from like usual Scrum, where we have we had in previous versions we had roles, but now we have accountability. So there were a lot of discussions in Scrum community, how to use it, how to change it, but probably it's one difference that we have between different frameworks, and why I also try to think about how wording is used and try to find similarities, because what I mentioned at the beginning, the main goal is to help your teams and your clients, your companies to fix their challenges, to focus on challenges and problems. And terminology, in many cases, it's something that will block. So just one example, known maybe for more than 10 years, iteration and sprint. So we have one reserved word in Scrum, sprint, that presents a lot of things, but one of those is cadence. So duration of cadence that we have. In Agile world, we use word iteration, but we can say that these words are synonyms. Yes, definitely there are differences in them. So, and such difference exists for roles and accountabilities. But talking about all other frameworks, we can say that roles are used in safe, less, but they are not used in usual Scrum. So our accountabilities are already used, and accountabilities are also used in Nexus. So it's like what we have in difference here. And in case we move further with definite roles, so we can see that new roles can be created in different scaling frameworks. But comparing Scrum, usual Scrum on Nexus, so there are like no additional roles. And the same we can say for less, like we still have the same idea that we have for our team that develop something, and we call it Scrum team. Talking about scaling, we use different number of teams, and all other like product owner, Scrum Master, they are absolutely the same. So like no change for these frameworks, even during scaling. But talking about safe, we can see, or we can say that there is difference in these roles, and these roles are different on different levels, like on team level and on scaling level. So, and as I mentioned, we have agile teams, but I will touch it a bit later. But talking about roles, we have product owner and Scrum Master. So it's like in all other, and we have developers. So that accountability that is used in all other. And here we can start to look on some differences, because talking about less Nexus with scaling, still we expect that we have only one product owner, and this person is responsible for product. So like even with scaling, we have understanding that we don't need separate people, separate roles, but we have some kind of limitations here. So you can see that what is recommended here, 3-9 Scrum teams, and you can see here also trigger for for scaling. So like two teams, it's obvious situation, so it's easy to communicate, organize scaling. But when we have three teams and more, so it's the reason to think that we need to identify some specific approach to work with such complexity, but still like no additional roles. The same situation with less, when we have 8 teams, and there is a bit difference for less huge when we try to present new role, area product owner, but still we have one product owner, one who is responsible for the whole product. By the way, so talking about Scrum at scale, scaling that is used here. So you can see 5 teams are organized in so-called Scrum of Scrum. It's also the reason to combine Scrum at scale with Scrum of Scrum by State of Agile report. So what about SAFe? And this picture is probably common for SAFe 5 and 6. We have different versions. So we have different versions, sorry, levels, complexity, and even different configurations. And minimum configuration is in SAFe, which is called team of teams, is Agile release train. And you can see that new roles are introduced here. So you can see that we have new role RTE, product management, and it's how SAFe recommends to organize scaling. And there is also one difference that we can check with Nexus, less, and SAFe. So how scaling is organized, because when we talk about less and Nexus, so you can see it, so there is a trigger when we start thinking about scaling. SAFe uses a bit different approach. So SAFe declares itself as a framework that is focusing on enterprises. And it means that we have to think at the beginning about 1,000 of teams, 1,000 of employees. And this structure presents not reporting line, but so it looks more like escalation point. So and Scrum Master role on art level as RTE, product owner level on art is product management, and we have such roles on next level large solution like solution train engineer and solution management. So the same items you can see on SAFe 6, like no difference here in roles. One difference is in naming maybe. So and it's also reference why agile teams are used in SAFe. So SAFe recommends at least 2 options how to organize teamwork. One is Scrum. And you can see here SAFe Scrum on 6 and SAFe XP on 5 version. But also you can apply Kanban as a framework or as method, or try to Kanban SAFe, Scrum with Kanban. And it's probably one more difference between SAFe and all other frameworks that they present, because less Nexus, Scrum at scale, they are frameworks that scale Scrum. Exactly. So it means that Scrum should be implemented on each level. So like each team should follow Scrum, and its difference in SAFe that not only Scrum can be used, and it's the reason to use agile teams instead of Scrum teams, and also use word iteration for such cadence. Okay, so let's talk about these roles in numbers. And most of these frameworks presents different vision to number of team members on each level, like how many we expect on team level, how many we expect on team of teams levels and others. But I believe that the best reference, so how small or big should be team or team of teams, it's Dunbar numbers. And we can check how understanding was changed on Scrum level in Scrum Guide. And previous version of Scrum Guide recommended from 6 to 9 team members. Now recommendation is 10, like 10 or less. Talking about last framework, large scaling Scrum. So they initially proposed 7 plus minus 2, like from 5 to 7, and probably it was like only difference between previous version of Scrum Guide with less. And by the way, so they didn't change this approach with new version. So after the latest Scrum Guide updates in 2020, it was not updated in less. What about safe? So I touched Safe 6 and Safe 5. But maybe it will be good to compare or check Safe 4 version, because a lot of things from Scrum Guide we applied to Safe 4, like all roles, events, duration of events. So you can check it, and most of things were like copy pasted from Scrum Guide, so recommendation for duration of like daily planning, etc. But talking about number of people, so Safe 5 used previous recommendation, like from 3 to 9 team members, but they decided to keep like or add product owner and Scrum Master separate. So their recommendation for Safe 5 was from 5 to 11 team members, including Scrum Master and product owner. Safe 6 removed this recommendation at all. So you cannot find such recommendation. There is recommendation more about what is expected from team, like what we expect that such team should deliver, like what such team should focus on. But it's not presented in numbers at all. Okay. So let's switch to artifacts, and talking about team level, there is no any difference. So we have 3 artifacts. It's like backlog that we have for product, iteration backlog or sprint backlog, depending on name. So as I mentioned, Safe use word iteration, and increment, so result of so outcome that team should deliver at least once by the end of each iteration, each sprint. And difference probably can be seen on higher level, but still we expect integrated increment. So we can see difference in naming in the framework, but the whole understanding that when we work as one team, we expect at least one increment during sprint or iteration, at least one. When we are at scale, we expect that all teams that are involved into implementation should think how to integrate it. So how to integrate this environment, increments, and produce one big increment at the end of each sprint iteration. And like talking about Nexus, we have only one level of scaling, so we expect one. Talking about less, so we have less that we expect one increment in this area. when we have only 8 teams. In case we have more areas, so still you can see that several levels of integration should be expected. And talking about safe, we can see that we have one level of integration is art. Second level integration is launch solution. So we have also like several level of integration, but expectations are absolutely the same. So like no change in understanding. And what is important? So talking about any artifact, we expect any commitment for this artifact. And most of these frameworks have recommendations on such definition of done on team level or on higher level. So like usual recommendations, what we expect to have at the end of any cadence. In case of small cadence, which is one iteration or one sprint, or bigger cadence that can be considered as release, or there is a separate term for such release in safe. Yeah, so like when we have a bigger increment that includes several iterations together. Okay. So events. So I would like to touch events that we have on team level more, because there is like a common approach that is used for all such frameworks, Scrum or scaling, Nexus, Scrum at scale, less, that they have 5 events. And sprint is used as a container event. So it's common for all of them, but there is no such container events in safe at all. So you will not find such event in it. But all other events like planning, sprint planning, iteration planning, review, retro, daily stand-up. So all these events are used absolutely the same for all these frameworks. So like no change in understanding what kind of events we should have. But there is one more difference between safe and other events, and this difference is in daily stand-up. So Scrum recommendation is that this event is exactly for developers. So it's not expected that even Scrum Master should attend each. So still such expectation that such event should be effective, so it should be conducted, etc. Safe recommendation is to use a bit different approach here, to follow different. So it's expected that product owner and Scrum Master should participate in this daily stand-up event. And it's made by reason, because product owner, so talking about these roles like product management, solution management, and product owner, so focus of product owner is a bit different in safe in comparison to other. So this person is dedicated to help Agile team to work with their daily duties, so to implement, increment, but product management and solution management are mostly focused on clients. So like separation of such duties, which is still expected to be on one role in like LESS and Nexus. So such approach is used that any issues or questions can be addressed right after the daily stand-up. So to be honest, I tried different approach with teams in Scrum. And so I personally can say that I see a lot of benefits when product owner and Scrum Master attend. So like, it doesn't mean that these people should change purpose of this of this event, but the most idea is to follow Scrum end approach. So we have Scrum and we would like to improve it. And such reason, when we follow such reason, it's only let's say option to add product owner to such event. But in case product owner doesn't help, but bring more bring issues to these events, so definitely you shouldn't follow such practice. Okay, so and focusing on scaling events, we have separate events how to organize our work, and we have a separate daily for Nexus team. So it's some integration team that we have in Nexus. So it's probably one difference that exists. And talking about SAFe, we have events in SAFe that are focused mostly on inputs and outcomes. So we have so-called PI planning event when we, as the whole team of teams, plan our work. We have regular system demos when we try to present result of our work, and when we have different events that are focused on agile release train. So like input, it's more for planning. Output, it's at the end of iteration or depending on level, end of our PI. And also event to track, or even events that help us to track activities. So how we are progressing against our goal in PI. So different events for product owners and Scrum Masters. Okay, so and maybe one additional thing that I would like to present. What is the difference between framework? Because when we apply something on team level, most of things are described in Scrum guide. So how to follow this. But talking about dependencies is scaling. So I removed Scrum Alliance here because they provide only, let's say, training based on Scrum, but they recommended previously Scrum at scale and less scaling framework. Now they present different articles on how to compare SAFe, less, Scrum Inc. So no such topic related to scaling, but there is a difference how Nexus, less, and SAFe treats dependencies. And I can say that like initial understanding in Nexus and SAFe is common. Talking about less approach is absolutely different. And so talking about SAFe and Nexus, these frameworks accept dependencies. So it doesn't mean that they are fine to keep these dependencies. So a lot of rules or practices are recommended to be applied to get rid of dependencies. So it means that we can can apply different practices with focus to reduce number of dependencies, but we understand that it's something that cannot be removed at all. So just a fact. So our goal is to minimize number of dependencies and track them properly. and we follow different approaches here. And Nexus team in Nexus is team that focuses on any cross-team dependency. So goal of this team is to identify, analyze, and help to resolve such dependencies. Talking about safe, we have a different approach. So we have different events on team of team level. So how we can work with these dependencies, and initial approach for dependencies is to identify them during PI planning and create program board. So so it was program board for version 5, and artboard is the same board, but where we have all teams and we have work items which teams are developing, and we present with red lines how to work to them. So, and as I mentioned, initially we identified during PI planning. So it's planning for several sprints, but we try to manage them during our PI and Scrum of Scrum or Coach Sync meetings and PO Sync meetings are events that help us to track and manage these dependencies during this release cycle, which is PI. And approach is absolutely different for less. So what is the difference between Nexus, Safe, and Less? So Less tries to treat each dependency is something that should be removed at all. And the main approach that Less tries to apply is to remove org structure. So to create plain on structure, because any org structure, not plain structure, is a trigger for any dependency. So it means that in case you have dependencies, in most of cases, it will lead to some reorganization of company, of teams. So, and the main goal to remove all dependencies at all. So you can see that one approach is to say that, yeah, it's a devil, but we try to minimize it as maximum as possible. Another approach is to remove it at all and apply a different approach, how to organize teams, how to organize all other things to remove dependencies at all. And one item that I would like to present, because it's also major difference between SAFe and all other frameworks. And I will talk about scaling framework. So I mentioned to you that one difference is that Less, Nexus, Scrum at Scale framework that scale Scrum exactly. So it means that all teams should have Scrum on team level. So like only Scrum, and we can improve our Scrum with different things, but Safe is fine to have different different methodologies or frameworks on team level, but Less and Nexus are focusing on one product. So and these frameworks tells you in case you have several products, so your goal should be to identify these products and create two separate Nexus or two separate less or less huge, and each one should support one product. What to do in case we have 2, 3 products in one organization? So no such answer from these frameworks, but SAFe has separate portfolio level, and goal of this portfolio level is exactly to manage dependencies between different products. So in SAFe terminology, these products are solutions. So we identify solutions and we deliver solutions to our end users, to our clients. But portfolio level help us to understand how to change focus between different solutions and how to work with them in effective way. Okay, so that's it for items that I would like to present to you. Any questions? So it's time to ask your questions. I see one comment in chat. Scrum at scale and Scrum of Scrums are different. Absolutely. So like no questions here. They are different, but as I mentioned, Scrum at scale is not so mature in comparison to all others. Maturity, I mean that how often it's used for implementation. So I do believe that this framework has a lot of useful things that can be applied. So like no questions here, but approach how we organize them, and let me probably just a sec. Let me go to, yeah. So you can see that it's approach how Scrum teams are organized. So and Scrum of Scrum is used to organize 5 teams. So and it's probably the reason to combine these Scrum of Scrum and Scrum at scale in one. And in 14th version, there were no reference to Scrum at scale. So it was presented 2 years ago with the 15th versions, and still they have the same line like Scrum at scale / Scrum of Scrum instead of Agile 16 version. So I expect that in some period of time, they will separate it, but now we have what we have. Okay. So any other questions? Sorry. Silence. So you can raise your hand and ask it in voice, or you can type in chat if you cannot say your question. Okay. So no questions. Maybe let's give one more minute that you'll think about any questions. Okay, so as I can see, people are leaving. So it means that potentially there will be no any additional questions. So thank you very much for your time and for participation.